Okay, if you've been watching a few of my knife reviews, this is Nutnfancy. I have mentioned in previous videos how some folding knives, i.e. manual action knives, will function just about as good, if not better, than an auto knife. These are two examples of such knives. These are the Harsey Air Ranger knives from Gerber, and the thing that really attracted me to this design was the speed of deployment. There's some other things I'm going to cover in the review, but I'm going to start it off with how fast the knives come out. I'm going to start with this smaller one. This is a Gerber Harsey Air Ranger 1. This is a Gerber Harsey Air Ranger 2. That's quite the mouthful, by the way, at least for me. This one's no longer being manufactured by Gerber. You might be able to get it on secondary markets. It's the larger tactical version of the one, and they're both cool to have. But let's talk to the speed of deployment first, starting with the Ranger 1. It comes out with the slightest of thumb pressure, almost auto in speed. That probably wasn't the best demo to show you how fast these are, but they're just extremely fast. They have Teflon washers in them, if I'm not mistaken, and they're just balanced and lubricated perfectly, so the blades come out with just a very slight amount of thumb pressure. Man, I dig it. You really have to actuate a Gerber Harsey Air Ranger to appreciate how fast they are, and it's just cool. I love that. When they do come out, how do they lock up? Absolutely solid. I don't detect any movement side to side, up and down at all. And with the larger brother, the Tactical Ranger 2, same thing. Nice tight lockup. Notice they both have thumb ramps too. I like that feature. Of course, the Air Ranger 2, the larger version in the back, is going to have a little bit longer one, and the jimping on both of them works. It's not just for looks only. It really locks your thumb in it. Another nice design feature of the Air Ranger. Beautiful. Let's talk about the blades a little bit. The blade steel on a lot of Gerber knives is not my favorite. I think Gerber steel is kind of on the soft side in my use of the knife, including the one you're looking at right here. I have carried in an EDC roll. Didn't hold an edge super great, but it was easy to sharpen. The current Harsey Air Rangers are made of AUS-8 steel, AUS-8A steel is what their website is saying. I'm not positive that this Ranger 1 here is made of that steel. It might be the Gerber Mystery Steel. I call it Mystery Steel, and yeah, we can find out exactly what it's made of. It's out there. But Gerber sometimes does not advertise the specifics of its steels. It just says, you know, high carbon stainless steel. I hate that. Tell me exactly what steel it is and make it, you know, relative to other commercial offerings so we can compare and we know what we're getting when we buy a knife. I think these are both AUS-8A steel. I might be mistaken. I'm almost positive this one is. You don't know because they don't stamp it. And nor does it say on the literature of the box. It doesn't say on, well, now it does on their website, but in years past it did not. So it was up to you, the consumer, to kind of, you know, crack the code on what kind of steel it was. Now, that being said, it's not a horrible steel. It's not, you know, the kind that I'd say, you know, I just won't own it. Obviously, I've kept these knives, and I will in the future too. I'm not getting rid of them. They're too cool to get rid of. So, could it be a better steel? Yep. I would really like them to use a higher grade, maybe 154 cm, even 440C would be preferable over these offerings. Now, I don't, the AUS-8 steel, I actually like it a lot. Cold Steel's used it in the past. I've had good experience with it. I've talked to that a lot in previous vids. I just don't know why Gerber steel is kind of on the softer side. Still functional though. The blade shapes are aesthetic. They're good looking blade shapes, and they have that false swedge on the top. Bead blasted finish, good looking. Here's a couple criticisms of the blades, and this is going to speak more to the EDC roll, and that's what I'm going to put their Air Ranger 1 in the category, or POU. It is an EDC knife, an everyday carry knife that you would use for utility tasks. And when I have a blade for EDC, I prefer it to be kind of on the thinner side. I think the Air Ranger 1 is a little bit on the thicker side. You can see that steel is indeed kind of thick. And let me roll in here with my Spyderco Centofonte 3, and I'm going to show you what an ideal thickness for EDC blade is on the right. And this is, of course, in VG10 steel, the Centafonte 3. Love it. Been using it for years. What a great blade that is. And I just find that the thinner steel cuts better. It's more effective at opening packages, food preparation, and the other myriad of tasks you're going to be faced with that the EDC blade is going to have to tackle. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that this Gerber Air Ranger 1 is inept in the EDC role. It just means that we're going to have to make some modifications, at least I think they need to be made, in order to make it a little bit more useful in that role. And one of the mods that I did on this Air Ranger 1, and actually the big brother in the background there, is I backed that relief edge up. The primary grind on the blade starts about mid-spine. In my opinion, it would have been better to start it all the way up here since it is such a thick blade. But no, we're starting the primary grind about mid-spine. That means we have to be a little bit more abrupt as we approach that relief edge, and the relief edge terminates in the cutting edge. And the way I made this knife sharper and more effective in the cutting task is I had that relief edge backed up on the height of the spine. And what that does, it gives it a much finer edge, sharper, makes it a better slicer. I still can't compensate for the thickness of the blade. That's just by virtue of the physics. It's not going to slice as well as maybe a thinner blade. And again, I'm talking EDC tasks here. But with that relief edge backed up a bit, it helped tremendously. Right now, this thing is shaving sharp. And if I remember correctly, I don't think they come super sharp out of the box. They kind of need some help. So one way or another, I think you'd be wise to put a better edge on your Air Ranger if you decide to get it. The blade has that belly, which is nice. It's kind of that modified clip design. I love it. Very functional for EDC. And let's roll in with the Ranger 2. This is a bigger knife along the lines of a tactical blade, 4-inch blade. And it has the same blade shape, just larger version. I mean, really, these knives are the same. It's just one, smaller than the other. But proportionally, they have the same exact features. Now, this, talking to a tactical sense, this blade shape, like I've spoken to in other videos, will be effective at both thrust cutting and slash cutting, should you need to do it, heaven forbid. But if you have to, I think it would function in that. And if you do have to do a thrust cut, you do have that jimping on the thumb ramp that will help. Also, there's some jimping on the liner lock that will help lock in your index finger on the bottom in a forward grip. How about the handles? The handles are good looking, and that's another cool feature of these knives. I think they're just good looking knives. They've been offered in different colorations. I've seen them in blue, I think red, green, I think it might be out there, and then of course this matte gray, which is actually, even though it's very common, my favorite coloration of the Air Ranger. I think it's just cool. Yeah, it's kind of tactical. I like that though. Very nice. The handle itself is made of solid aluminum. There's no nested steel liners on the opposite side. Now, on the liner lock side, of course, they have to mill in that liner lock made of stainless steel. It's flush mounted, and it's going to serve the locking purposes. Some guys will look at that liner lock and go, well, that's kind of a weak looking lock. And that's a valid criticism, but again, for a lightweight EDC blade, and by the way, this one only weighs 2.6 ounces. I shouldn't say only. It is 2.6 ounces. That's an adequate lock, if you ask me. No problems there. Now, if we look at the big brother, the Ranger 2, it has the same type of lock. It's also nested in the liner side of the knife, but it also has a locks style feature on the side. So we push that forward, and it prevents disengagement from the liner lock. So that's going to make that a stronger, much more robust design in hard use. That's kind of cool they incorporated that. I like that. Getting back to the handle, I'll look at the Ranger 2 for this one. Here comes a little bit of a criticism. It's a good looking handle. The checkering is pretty useful. It doesn't totally lock your hand in, but you have to kind of draw a balance here. You don't want it to cut your skin all up, and yet you want it to lock in good. I think they struck probably about as good a balance as they can. But a criticism I'll level is it still has some sharp shoulders on the handle. Even though it's been radiused, you can see they've been radiused just a little bit at a 45-degree angle, both on the top and the bottom. However, it's still kind of a blocky handle in use. It's not totally ergonomic, so you just need to take that in consideration. Pillar design, and I like that pillar design, preferred actually. Great way to keep the knife clean and to maintain it if you need to. If you drop it in salt water and you need to take it apart to prevent rusting under that liner lock, you can do it with the mini Torx drivers. Just take it apart right there. Very cool. And just a simple, easy to maintain knife. The clip itself could be improved, and that's probably my biggest criticism on the Air Ranger series, is it's not reversible either left to right or tip up to tip down. You're going to be forced in a right-handed tip down carry with the clip, and I do not prefer that. I think it would have been real easy for them to drill this out and make a clip design with just a little bit engineering that would be more versatile. And the clip itself also is kind of that bead blasted stainless. For this larger knife, the Ranger 2, I'd much prefer it to be darker, maybe a gunmetal gray. This will kind of stand out if you don't want your knife to stand out, and they could have done a better job with that. And the clip is a little bit on the large sides. It's just a little bit too thick through here. That's, again, my own preferences, and your mileage may vary. How about those thumb studs? Really nice thumb studs, dual terraced on each side, and they work nicely for getting purchase, and they're ambidextrous there, so that won't be a problem. That Ranger 2 comes out fast too. Man, I love that about these knives, and that's my huge attraction. Both the looks and the speed of the knives and the solid lockup, they're all pluses for these really interesting knives. The price is actually fairly reasonable too. I got this Ranger, the Ranger 2 at a shop in California on sale for $45. This one. This one here I paid around $32 for. So both of them I got for really affordable prices, and for those prices they offer an amazing amount of performance. You know, my minor criticisms notwithstanding. And you can adjust that pivot screw if you ever had to, just with your mini Torx driver. But I haven't had to do it on either of these knives. They come out fast, they lock up tight. They're relatively ergonomic other than the sharp shoulders that I talked about. The blades are multifunctional. You can use them in both EDC and emergency tactical roles. More emergency tactical for the Ranger 2. Good luck finding this one. It's going to be a hard find. Secondary markets, I'm sure they're still out there. This one is currently being produced, and you can find it. And one thing about the weight, by the way, this is a 4-ounce tactical folder, 2.6 ounces for this one again. They are light, but they could have been a little bit lighter. By way of reference, the Gerber Paraframe weighs the same size blade, weighs the same amount as this Air Ranger. So yeah, they're light, but they're not that light. If this knife weighed out at, I don't know, 1.8 ounces, then I would be amazed. That would be cool. But they're plenty light enough for carry and pocket. This makes a good LBE knife, i.e. clipping to your load-bearing equipment if you're a soldier. Also a police officer, this would be a good option if you can just deal with that tip-down carry, which to me is kind of a stick in the mud for me. That's it, man. These knives are cool, they're affordable, and they have a lot to offer. This is Nutnfancy signing off with a quick Gerber Harsey Air Ranger knife review. If I forget something, I usually do, I may annotate it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.